Welcome to another Founder Wisdom Pod. We have Ted Iverson with us today. He's a business improvement systems advisor, a designer, a coach. Ted is managing director at Iverson Consulting Group, is on the company in Idaho, international client base, has worked with McKinsey for almost 10 years and a bunch of other cool companies. So Ted, welcome to the pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself and what you're up to.
Thanks, Charles. Appreciate the opportunity to visit and get better acquainted. I did spend about a decade with McKinsey. All of my life has been in operational excellence. McKinsey called and asked if I would join originally, probably because of my background as a Shingo examiner. The Shingo Institute is kind of the global benchmark for excellence in those areas, of great culture, great performance, and they offer a thing called the Shingo Prize, and I've been an examiner for that specific prize for the last 30 years. So most of the top performing sites globally, I've helped assess and provide feedback for, and did that with McKinsey, and left last year because there were some things I wanted to try that I couldn't convince them to try. And I still serve as a senior advisor to McKinsey, but there are some things I wanted to do with technology and getting large organizations moving in those directions. And McKinsey is still anxious to see if that's going to work out. So we'll do it on the outside and then share what we know.
Interesting. So what precisely did you wanted to do? Does that have to do with AI? And do you feel that most companies are not quick moving enough? How could they foster more entrepreneurial culture and have people try out more things internally? Aren't they losing important members of their companies not doing that?
Yeah, I guess AI specifically to me as a tool, it's how we use and how we incorporate it. For example, one of the avenues, as a large organization, whether you've got 90,000 employees or 360,000 employees, when you have that kind of mass, the lift is so heavy to build capability all the way out to the front line, to be able to get that knowledge and focus and all of the good intentions that leaders have for their organizations, to get that water all the way out to the end of the line is an awfully heavy lift without some level of technology. The constraint typically comes in when you've taught people all of the words and the concepts, but getting into the actions, right? So I care less about what they know. I care more about what they do. And so moving from knowledge into actions, and some of the organizations that I'm working with, specifically Opus Works, has a way. The constraint is typically when they start working on something, the coaching and mentoring that helps them have confidence to move forward and know how to be effective. And so with some new models involving AI, we've got those things happening where the bulk of what we're doing is AI mentored. And the exception, of course, then is human mentored, as we need to. So it allows for a lot greater numbers to be able to move forward. There's a case study with the U.S. Air Force right now talking about 50,000 of their airmen becoming problem solvers through these kinds of applications. And it's cool because they're just eating it up. They've got like an 84% net promoter score across 50,000 students, and it's just really solid, very solid activity. So,
and how's AI usage in these big four firms, like for example McKinsey? Do you use it for deep researches, and do you feel that this would actually replace the expensive consultant, like the deep research function of ChatGPT?
I think there is going to be a shift for sure, right? And McKinsey and other large consulting firms are using a lot of that, AI to try and help, migrate into what they know. The real focus for me with AI, like any other automation, AI needs to be the servant, not the master, right? And so when we look at those things, and we look at involving AI in, analyzing materials coming in and adjusting process settings to optimize for that material mix and attributes, those kinds of things still need to be understood by humans so that as we watch the AI, we continue to have the ability to update algorithms and opportunity to be able to increase the effectiveness of that AI without having a human monitor as much as guide and direct. So,
Right. And do you feel that we'll get super intelligence if that AI is always a servant? Isn't that the definition of being super intelligent, being unconstrained and being free to learn and do whatever you want?
well, it's like an organization, right? You can teach people to be better and eliminate waste, but it's always more effective when you focus that in a specific direction that is advantageous to the organization, that gains competitive advantage, adds value quicker, faster, better than others. And there's a lot of that we can get from AI, but the human still has to kind of direct it, at least what I see in the short term. I'm kind of on the backside of my career looking to transfer knowledge and skills to others, as kind of the close of my career or the twilight. But maybe we'll learn some new stuff. I think the key is to be aware and to watch for the opportunities. So.
Right. And yourself as a consultant, how do you leverage AI to serve your clients?
Yeah, I am moving a lot into helping them be comfortable using AI. For instance, you don't need a consultant to tell you certain things. Go to AI, look it up, move in that direction, and then let's talk when you start moving in those directions, right? So it's decreasing that dependence. At the same time, if you get somebody like me who's explaining the very basics and the very entry level of some of the improvement activities to you, that's not money and resource well spent. It helps me move into more of my value add area, and also helps the client learn to learn, better on their own. I'm hoping not to develop any dependency relationships with clients. I'm hoping to develop peers, and that's where we learn best anyway. So, oops, I lost your sound there, Charles.
How do you go to market? How do you get your clients?
So a lot of it is word of mouth through clients we've already worked with and served. The easy first step, for years and years, I've done this work. None of the words are enough to get people to understand the level of improvement, the level of engagement that is possible with some of the great organizations. So the first step is typically come with us. Come with us to one of these places. I tell them it's like chocolate cake. No matter how much time I spend describing to you what chocolate cake tastes like, it's sweet, it's smooth, it's rich. All of those descriptions are never as good as when you have a taste. And then you start to understand. And when we look at organizations that have had a passion for excellence for the last 20 or 30 years, there is a flavor and there is a warmth and a commitment in those organizations that until you get immersed, you really don't understand. I mean, I've taken McKinsey senior partners to those spots and they've said, wow, I want to work here, right? It is a whole another career altering kind of experience when you go to these organizations. So we take people there and then we say, in the discussion, what might this look like in your organization? And what's the timeline to get there? Definitely, it doesn't take the 20 or 30 years like it used to, because we understand a lot more than we did before. And it's trying to develop those experiences for all of the organizations that come with us to visit.
Right. And your ideal customer persona, like what size of business is it? What titles are you looking for?
Typically, it's the larger organizations, so multinational companies that are, significant, either in the high hundreds of millions up into the, some of our clients now are 55 billion, kind of in that range of revenues. So.
And this year, what kind of volume do you want to achieve? Because it's your first year, So, how's it going right now?
We're sold out through the end of the year.
Wow. What does that mean? Like sold out? Like, do you do you purely serve clients on a daily basis? You're fully busy doing that, or?
And more. So I'm bringing along, McKinsey colleagues and friends to be able to help support as the business continues to grow. But important to do it well, right? Whatever we want to do, we do it well. And so
Right.
it's not rapid growth; it's slow, methodical growth. We got half a dozen folks working with us now, which is very tiny, but serving some very large organizations, and they've got us fully booked. So.
And were these ex-colleagues, were these referrals? You didn't have to do any go-to-market. You just said like, "Hey, I'm open as a consultant now. Just come to me." And with all these accumulated years of experience, you actually got sold out. So these people like buy pieces of your time every day. So is that like 5 clients, and you dedicate 2 hours each every day, or what does that look like?
Well, it's more like the most popular service that they're doing now is it's almost like we're fractional chief transformation officers. So the time looks like a monthly fee where we support them virtually throughout the month, and then on a time basis that's agreed upon, we're on site, for whatever segment of days or a week, that is there. Typically, it's like quarterly. So quarterly visits, support in between, a lot of focus on building capability, not creating dependence. So.
Right. And is it the typical consultant contract in which you sell your time or sell blocks of time, or do you sell like monthly packages?
It's usually longer timeframes than that. So we'll sign people up for a year, but it's also easy out. So if they want to opt out of the service, a couple of weeks notice and we're done. If they don't find value in it, we don't want to lock them into anything. So.
Interesting. And do you think that's how most consultancies would be run in the future? What like would a consultancy you look like in 1 decade from now? Would it be a company buying a part of my API and pay per usage, pay for this knowledge of mine that's proprietary? And would I be an amalgamation of multiple algorithms? I have a bunch of AI agents works for me. What would the consultancy of the future look like?
That's a good question. And I don't know that I've really spent a ton of time thinking that far ahead. For us, the AI, again, is just a tool, right? And the reason I have tools and systems is to develop ideal behaviors inside of my organization. I want people that are able to see what value opportunities are there, and not just how we eliminate waste, but how we add value quicker, faster, and better than our competitors. And so those kinds of things, are still very intuitive, supported by AI for sure, but that human experience of being able to lead and understand and guide, that's really where we're focused. So.
Right. How will AI affect the market? Have you thought about how it might replace a good deal of our workforce? What's your stance on that?
I think all of the basic. It's forcing us to realize what is the value I add as a consultant. What's the real value I add? Is it in producing PowerPoint pages and doing summaries? No, it's really not. And yet so much of my time is occupied in doing things that are less than, you could say, my area of licensure or sweet spot of consulting. Years ago, I did some work with some infusion pharmacies, supporting multiple hospital systems, and it was interesting how much time in an infusion pharmacy, how much time the pharmacists spent working within their area of licensure, and how much time they spent doing all kinds of other things, right? And I think AI is going to help us get rid of a lot of those other things in my field and in my profession as well, and forcing us to focus on what is that area of licensure that we should be focused on? So I think the consultants pay attention to it are going to find that their ability to impact clients and help generate positive returns are going to be so much greater and efficient, right? And you don't have to pay for as much of me.
Let's double click on Shingo. I haven't heard that much of it. Like, what is the Shingo method about?
Yeah, happy to describe that. So way back when in the 40s and 50s, when Toyota production system was getting its start, one of the industrial engineers was Shigeo Shingo, and he and Taiichi Ono came up with the basis for what is now the Toyota production system. A lot of Shigeo Shingo's writings published in Japanese, his books, but were not translated to English until the early 80s. And a lot of that had to do with, things we regularly attribute now, going to the Gemba, being able to visit and understand what's happening at the source, the level of leadership, what we call now servant leadership, that kind of approach was a natural for him. So the Shingo Institute was formed and offers a thing called the Shingo Prize. And globally, it has become kind of the hallmark of organizations that have the best operating excellence, organizational excellence. And so whether you're in financial services or mining or manufacturing or utilities, energy, any kind of company can apply for the Shingo Prize. But before you can apply, you have to have 3 years worth of benchmark level validated performance in your industry. And you've got to be able to have indicators that show that, culturally, your organization is extremely engaged, a lot of great places to work, kinds of, recognitions through Forbes and those areas. And if your application is awarded a site visit, then they send a team of examiners. The main purpose is to provide feedback so you can continue to get better. But the other opportunity is to recognize your organization for the achievements they've made. And that's, I've been one of those examiners for the last 30 years. I think 30 years they were probably hurting for talent, and I could at that time, walk and chew gum at the same time. And so they asked me to be an examiner, but it's really just blossomed over the years. And probably one of the greatest blessings of my career is to be involved with the people who are focused in that area. It's a very principle-based kind of approach where you find elements and pieces of truth and then ask yourself, how is this being applied in this company, in this industry, and in this part of the world? Some very amazing things there.
Right. And in the physical field, what are you seeing? What kind of impact is AI having? For example, I had Spot AI CEO on this podcast, and he described how cameras inside manufacturing plants can now run your company, can now tell you who's doing what, the production efficiency or not, and can help with supply chain as well. What are you seeing inside physical businesses or manufacturers that you're working with? Are they integrating physically with AI and improving?
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've got entire mines that have autonomous vehicles, right? All of the haul trucks, all of the diggers, all of that is completely autonomous. And manufacturing is challenging enough when you start looking at, supply lines and areas of flow and all of that kind of stuff. But manufacturing is fairly stable. When you think about mining, the layout of the mine constantly changes. And so the optimum flow path, the optimum rhythm and sequence of haul trucks to diggers constantly evolves as you continue to operate and execute the mine plan, which not only covers today's activities, but goes, 50 to 75 years into the future. AI is playing huge roles in those areas. Even with some of the underground stuff, we've got people sitting in storage containers with a seat and controls as if they were running an underground digger, and all the monitors up, and that piece of equipment is far underground, they're above ground where it's safe and easier to access and all of that stuff. But huge technology advances in those areas.
So what's next for you this year? What will you actually focus your time on? Is it mostly solving clients' problem? Is that like your main direction for this year? Hiring maybe?
So my focus this year, a lot of what we're doing is making sure that the systems that are in place at clients are moving them from that good to great level. I guess the other thing I should mention, because my clients hear it all the time, the engagement part really relies on a connection to a meaningful purpose. So what is the good that we do in the world? How do I connect that to the strategy? And then how do I connect my continuous improvement system to each piece of that strategy, so that when people make things better, they not only achieve the strategic goal, but they also accomplish this meaningful purpose. That's where people's hearts get engaged. That's where, the amazing things happen, and they come back from the weekend and they say, I was thinking about this. I have a great idea. Let's, and they share something that's earth shattering. I want those kind of experiences at my clients, where people love the work. It's not uncommon to be able to hear them say things like, I've never loved a job like the one I have now. I feel like I was born to be in this place doing what I'm doing, and to have that level of alignment and connection, which we have in clients, and those kinds of things are happening. So the focus is keep calibrating, keep dialing in, keep getting toward that great level of experience that happens, and then create that pattern so that across these large organizations, it becomes the norm instead of the exception.
Love that. Ted, where can people find out more about you and your company?
Yep. Easy to find us on LinkedIn. We've got a page there. The website is iversonconsultinggroup.com. And the first step, come with us. Come with us to some of these places, see the amazing stuff that's happening, and see how that fits.
So that was Ted.